Hi, this is episode 7 of On the Mark with Arpit with Mark Seagraves and Arpit Sharma. On the show today, on the episode, we're going to talk about the matches in Europe, the Champions League and the Europa League primarily, and then look ahead to what's coming on the weekend in the FA Cup and the Premier League as well in that race for the title and the top 4 positions. Mark, obviously I've written down the scores, I've written down the matches that we're going to talk about, but it's been a week, it's been a good week, hasn't it?
It's been a week of upsets, hasn't it? I think every team that I thought had picked to get through to the semi-final didn't make it. So in that respect, it's been a weird week for me. But yeah, I mean, again, some great football from the top levels, aren't we? We're talking about the top level of football. And we alluded to maybe a couple of days ago where we're talking about players that hadn't really hit the heights in the first leg, and my goodness, they all hit the heights in the second leg for whatever team they played for. So in that, yeah, that was good, and it's nice, isn't it, where we don't see the same team winning on a regular basis, i.e. Manchester City. So yeah, it was a good week of football.
Yep. Yeah. Defending the crown, that is obviously something that we're going to talk about. So let's just start with the Champions League. Man City, Real Madrid, the match ended 1-1, went to penalties. Of course, Real Madrid progressed. Bayern against Arsenal, the one that everyone picked Arsenal to go through when the tie was announced. Bayern beating them on the night and in the tie as well. Barcelona, big losers against PSG on the night, 4-1 in favor of the French side. A red card, very critical there. And Dortmund scored against a usually stingy Atletico Madrid. Which game do you want to start with?
Well, we'll start with, I want to start with Arsenal because I was under no impression that Arsenal were going to lose this game. I just couldn't see them not going through. We've seen Bayern Munich over the course of a season that's been really bad for them domestically. But what I will say, over the course of the 2 games, they deserved it probably. And yeah, it was a shock for Arsenal, and it's a learning curve for them. But yeah, Bayern Munich going through in the shadow of what's been happening in the Bundesliga. Very, very good results.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, it just, continues to make us believe that football is very unpredictable. You can think about everything, look at the stats, look at the performances, the form, the players, the injuries, and then the result can be completely different. Bayern Munich, I'll just at this point let our audience know that Mark Seagraves had thought of an incentive offer for anyone who would follow us on YouTube, which was a paid vacation in Goa, a stay. If Bayern Munich were to get through, he was so confident about Arsenal, but he didn't make that promise. So he's backed out of it. So he doesn't need to in Goa for 2 nights. Yep, Bayern Munich, well done, Arsenal. Just quickly, Arsenal lost in Villa and a lost Bayern again. Season fall away
for Arsenal. Yeah, no, I don't think it is. I think it's a learning curve for them. I know Arteta has said such that they're still young in terms of Champions League football. He alluded to saying that teams haven't won the trophy for 7 to 10 years, so he's going under that radar, if you like, where he's going to say we're only young in terms of going through to the Champions League, especially in his tenure. But having said all of that, they've now got the reality, haven't they, of the Premier League as well. So, it's very much still in the hands, if you like, because, they've still got to go out and perform. This is a body blow for them. And I can see it really affecting the players, because it'll take a lot out of them mentally and also physically. And as we know, it's a treadmill, isn't it, the Premier League? It's game after game after game. And they've got to come down, dust themselves off, and and go for it at the weekend. They need to get the 3 points to put the pressure on Manchester City.
They're playing Wolves in 11th place themselves, but on the night can put up any kind of performance from the very good to the very mediocre. So that's the match on weekend. And then they play Tottenham next Sunday, Arsenal. So these two matches, I think, I mean, it's obviously coming to the close of the season. So that is going to define where and his players stand. Bayern Munich, of course, no Bundesliga. But Mark could win the Champions League.
Yes, unbelievably so. I mean, I never thought they'd ever dreamed of getting through to this. And what we've seen again as being chaotic, hasn't it? It's, you know, the win one, lose one, draw one, win one, lose one, draw one. This is the time when I think they'd won the last game and we were expecting them to not win or draw. But they managed to 4 goals against Atletico Madrid. And Atletico Madrid went there. Obviously, they were ahead in the tie. And they went there just to defend, really. You know, like back in the past, and you alluded to it early on, that they're stingy with the goals. Not this year. They're one of the heaviest goal scorers in European football. But on the night, they played 5 centre-halves at the back, expecting it just to, you know, a 0-0 and go through to the semi-final. But it just didn't happen because Dortmund brought back in Julian Brandt into the team, and he started the goal scoring and played really, really well. And it shocked Atletico Madrid because they didn't know what to do. Second half, it was a little bit more open, but that suited Dortmund down to the ground, you know, especially at home and especially with that crowd behind them.
Bayern, actually, but it's a good miscommunication that happened, and you are Dortmund, so that's all right. Bayern or Dortmund could win the Champions League, which is saying that's okay, which is saying something about the Bundesliga, because, you know, we cover the Bundesliga. You know, that term League is used about the Bundesliga, saying it's not as competitive. Fair enough. It's possibly not the most competitive league in Europe, but it has 2 teams in the Champions League semis.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I thought, we obviously screen it and watch it, and I do watch most of the games if I can. And I would always say that it's behind La Liga, it's behind the Premier League in terms of that quality. But having said that, you know, both teams have good quality players in their armour, haven't they? You've got Harry Kane, Sané, Gnabry, Musiala in Bayern Munich, and obviously you've got Brandt, you've got Füllkrug, you've got Cuckoo, you've got all of these players that, you know, are doing well for Dortmund as well. So they have the way in terms of winning games. I mean, it's beyond my comprehension that both of them are in there, especially after seeing them this season. But they are, and you know, I remember Manas laughingly said to me, he said, "What about a Bayern Munich Dortmund final?" And I said, "Yeah, all right." It certainly could be, couldn't it?
Yeah, it certainly could be. Of course, Bayern have to get past Real Madrid, and Dortmund have to get past PSG. PSG scored 4 goals against Xavi's Barcelona. But, Mark, the talking point on the night obviously was that one of the 3 to Barcelona, to Araujo in that defense. First up, for you, red card.
By the letter of the law, it was. I mean, he was naive in his defending. He's got to let him go through. The player got in front of him. I think it was who was it who got in front of him? Whoever. Anyway, he's got in front of him, and Araujo couldn't do anything. He's got to just let him go, and if he scores a goal, he scores a goal or whatever. But I don't know whether it'd have been better if they'd had the penalty and a yellow card, or get the straight red outside. And I think if you look at the game as it went on, they got dominated, Barcelona. PSG ran ragged over them because of that extra man. And on the night, you know, we talked about Dembele, we talked about Luis Enrique, we talked about Mbappe. They all had points to prove against Barcelona for one thing or another. The press were at Mbappe for not performing. He performed on the night. Dembele was getting a lot of stick from the Barcelona press and the supporters. He'd give it to Barcelona, and Luis Enrique as well. So when you've got players of that ilk who haven't been doing okay, I mean, Dembele played well in the first leg, but you know, Mbappe had something to prove, and you know, albeit it wasn't brilliant, but he scored 2 goals and got them through to the semi-final. So, yeah, that was my take on that. It was a penalty. It was naive. It cost them not a penalty. It was a red card. It was naive. It cost them in the long run, because when you've got a team like that who
the penalty was late, of course.
Who go at them, then it was only going to go one way then. So, and you've seen the Barcelona players were absolutely shattered at the end of the game, weren't they?
Yep. Now, Mark, going down to 10 to a lot of teams in football, do you think Xavi didn't possibly make the best decisions or handle the game better after going a man down?
It was very early in the game, Arpit, wasn't it, as well? And maybe he could have. I think he was going to try and get to half-time, reevaluate, because what you're going to do then is you're inevitably going to take a striker off or a forward-thinking player, and you're going 4-4-1 or even sometimes a 5-4 or a 4-5 and not have any out. And if you don't have an outlet, what's going to happen is they're just going to keep coming at you and coming at you and coming at you. And eventually, I mean, I think it was something like 70 minutes they had to play with 10 players or something like that. Then yeah, and it's going to take its toll. And I don't. I mean, he could have put another 3 players on, and I don't think they'd have got through. But it changed the game, and it changed the game in PSG's favour. And again, that's another team that I would have thought, because I've said previously, their league isn't that strong. But when you're seeing them play against Barcelona in the second leg, you're thinking, my goodness, they've got a chance of actually winning the Champions League. But you've got that white wall waiting for you, haven't you? Who's managed somehow to get through to these, end of competitions, finals, semi-finals, and we're obviously going to talk about them in a bit, aren't we? Real Madrid. So amazing.
Yep, we are. But just quickly, PSG Dortmund as a semi-final, even though most people didn't predict it, now looks like possibly a very high-scoring semi.
A high-scoring one, and it's a toss-up, isn't it? I mean, again, we talked about Dortmund. We don't know which Dortmund is going to turn up. If they turn up with the game plan that they had in the second leg, then this is all up for grabs, and PSG are quite unpredictable as well. They've got players there that can win games, and on other occasions they haven't performed. So that one is very much in the balance for me. So it can go either way. And what you've got to remember as well is Dortmund at home with them 80,000 supporters behind them with their big yellow wall. It's very intimidating, isn't it? So that's like an extra player for Dortmund at times.
Definitely is. PSG will have a fun trip to Germany, and Dortmund will have an interesting one to France as well. Which brings us, and I think we didn't plan to build it up like this, but it's built up pretty well for Manchester City versus Real Madrid. The climax of our talk about the UEFA 1-1 on the night. Real Madrid defending. I mean, I said just jokingly, Jose Mourinho masterclass in terms of defense. And someone said, I think it was Thierry Henry, or someone said that Madrid learned from what Arsenal did to Manchester City in the Premier League and just defended with their lives. How good were Madrid? Because a lot of people who play football, Mark, everyone will agree that defense is as important a part of football as any. How good were Real Madrid?
They were very good, weren't they? You've got to remember last year they got pumped, didn't they, 4-0. So that must have been in the back of their mind. And, they're going into this game, Manchester City at home, dominating possession. I think Real Madrid give them that license in the game to just, play in front of them. And they got the goal, which is so important. And it's so easy, or much easier, to defend when you've got a goal up, because you've got something to hang on to. But didn't manage to keep a clean sheet. And then, obviously, Man City scored. And I think, that was about right for both games, weren't they? 3-3, 1-1. There's nothing between both teams in terms of quality And Real Madrid managed to get that result and eke out, a 1-1 draw to take it to penalties. And then we seen some bizarre penalties, didn't we? Which is not like the standard that we're expecting. Bernardo Silva's penalty was shocking. And who goes up and takes the winning penalty? And he's been brilliant over the 2 games. Rudiger, the centre half. Yeah, and he hits the post and it goes in. So, I think the quality on the pitch in terms of the 120 minutes was fantastic, but not necessarily the penalties at the end.
Yeah. A lot of talking points in that match. I don't think we'll go through everyone, but just some of the main important points. A lot of people, again, criticizing Erling Haaland. Personally, I don't feel like as a striker, he did too much wrong. Once be in positions to...
Well, it's about where you're coming from. Yeah, I did, and I think the press and the nonsense he's getting on social media is crazy, because if you look at his goal scoring, it's not about just the last 2 games. It's about the goal scoring throughout his career since he's been at Man City is second to none. He's going through a bit of a spell, as are Man City as well. He's only as good as the players that are in and around him. He's like the concert guy with the baton. He's the one that that everyone's got to go around him, and he's the likes of Haaland. He's got to be given them opportunities. He's not a player that holds it up. He's not a player that can dribble and go past players. He's got to try and hold it up, play it to the likes of Bernardo Silva, Foden, Grealish if he's playing Doku, and then they've got to give him the ammunition. And that certainly didn't happen as well in the second game, at least. But has he got any divine right to score every game? And what happens now, Arpit, is players like, if that was me, I would raise my game 10%, 20% to play against Haaland to make him not score. And if you see what Rudiger did, he ruffled him up, didn't he? He battered him in the first half, in the first game, sorry. And he had us measured in the second game as well. So, he's got to find out a way now of changing his game a little bit, and not be too predictable, because average, I'm not saying Rudiger's average, but average players like myself, I would have a chance with him, because I know what I'd have to do to, to counteract what he's trying to do. So, I mean, it's easy. They're easy pickings, aren't they? Footballers in the social media, and I've seen a few managers over the last week have stormed out of press conferences for one thing and another. They're saying the stupid questions or whatever. But the pressure that these guys are under, not let alone the footballers, the managers as well, and and I think they just need to ease off at times, but they're not going to do that. That's the nature of the game, isn't it? The nature of the beast is, when they're going well, laud them. When they're not, you hammer them, and that's just the way it is, especially in England.
Yeah, I've been directed towards Arsenal this week, and I've just been shocked by what some of the really passionate fans have been saying after they've had such a good season as well. I mean, top of the Premier League, did so well against Real Madrid, and then again, people talking about players. And I don't think Haaland needs to, he needs to score, obviously, but what he did in the game, people were talking about passes, complete. It's not his job. His team had the control. Their team had the ball. He didn't need to go in there to score, and they couldn't get him into a position which would be like an easy shot, so to speak. He did get a couple of headers, but they weren't enough. Madrid, of course, defending Carlo Ancelotti, his thought priority to do.
Sorry, Arpit, say that again. I didn't quite hear you.
I said against Bayern, what do you expect Real Madrid to do?
They'll just do what they've done in all the games they go. They've got a self-confidence, haven't they? You look at them, and they've got that self-belief that, this isn't about Bayern Munich, this is about Real Madrid and how we go about things, and they believe on their day, if they play and perform to their maximum, they'll beat anybody, and that's been proven over the years, especially in the Champions League. It's not going to be an easy game, but again, we're talking about a Bayern Munich team that hasn't been great in terms. They've been great in the last couple of games, but before that, you would never have thought that Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid would coast it, but they've performed very well in the last couple of games, and I don't know how or why or how they've done it, but they've managed to get themselves from a level of 4 to a level of 8, 9, even 10 at times. So that's going to be an interesting. But out of both, I mean, obviously Real Madrid are going to be the favourites to win the trophy now, but we've got some teams in there who on the day can leave their mark. PSG, Dortmund, as we've said, and not necessarily Bayern Munich. I think Bayern Munich this season are being pedestrian, and I think this might be a good opportunity for Real Madrid to obviously reach the final again.
Okay. Well, I'm content moving on to the Europa League quickly. Is there anything else?
No, I just want to say what an amazing job. I mean, we've said this about Alonso and the players. What an amazing job they did. They've just won the Bundesliga at the weekend. Now, we're looking now. I mean, no matter what you say about anything, players and human beings, they've been on a level to win that league, and they've won it. And then now they've got the next game, which was West Ham away. And I watched the game, and they weren't very, very good in terms of the way they've been playing. And they were 1-0 down, and they managed again, Frimpong, to score the equaliser to keep their unbeaten run. I mean, this is amazing. The unbeaten run. They're in the semi-final of the Europa Cup, they're in the final of the Pokal, and they've won the Bundesliga. Can they get? I don't think they can, because emotionally, I think emotionally, it's a tough ask to still play at that level, especially in the Bundesliga when you've already won the title. So that might be their, that might be their Achilles heel in that. But the game against West Ham, because West Ham absolutely battered them at times, but they managed to be solid and managed to eke a goal out with Frimpong. I think it was in the 83rd minute, to keep their run going. So special praise to the players more so than Xabi Alonso. But Bayer Leverkusen, what they've done this year has been phenomenal.
It absolutely has.
Arpit, did you notice that I didn't mention Liverpool in this?
I was coming to Liverpool. Okay, we'll talk about Liverpool winning against Atalanta on the night, but obviously folks who makes a comeback, scoring 4 goals. I know Liverpool has, but it was a bit tough this time around, wasn't it, for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think based on the last couple of results as well and performances, Liverpool look spent, don't they? I mean, emotionally, physically. I mean, I seen a picture of Jurgen Klopp when he first come to the club, and a picture of him last night, and he looked as though he was haunted last night. And this is the toll that football takes on these guys. And Liverpool just weren't at the races at all, and they haven't been for a few games. It's going to be a big job for someone who goes into Liverpool, because there needs to be a real overhaul of players again, because the players that are in there already now, the likes of Curtis Jones and these other players that are in there, they're not good enough. Endo's not good enough for Liverpool. So there needs to be an injection of cash, get the quality players in. Now, whether that means, and I'm an advocate for this, I would sell Salah and I would sell Van Dijk as well, and get as much money as you can for both of them and go and spend it wisely.
Wow. Interesting. I think we should do one mini episode just about Liverpool and what you think the way forward is. And I can't even imagine the new manager being told, "Hey, we just sold Salah and Van Dijk. Go ahead, make your team right now." But yeah, Liverpool. Daniel De Roma, isn't he?
Say again, Arpit. I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the internet's just having a good time with us today. So maybe a couple of the words will somewhere along the way. But I said De Rossi with Roma doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, taking over from the special one, and they've got themselves into a semi-final against, AC Milan as well. It was a really good result. So, yeah, I mean, they'll look at this now and think that they're favourite because they've got to play Leverkusen in the semi-finals. So that's probably the hardest. But if you look at what Atalanta have just done to Liverpool, then they can find themselves in a position of being favourite as well. So again, this is an amazing two semi-finals because all four could win the trophy, couldn't they?
Yep. Marseille versus Atalanta looks to be a good semi-final on paper as well. Pretty much in line with PSG, Dortmund in terms of expecting goals and maybe not the most stoic defenses. To Atlanta only conceded one against Liverpool overall, but still. Finally, the FA Cup, two semi-finals coming our way. I assume it's going to be a Manchester derby. And just based on what we've seen with Man City struggling against Real Madrid as well, Chelsea possibly the happiest team in the week.
Yeah, on the back end of a 6-0. Obviously, you've seen all the pictures of Cole Palmer with the penalty with Jackson and stuff. And that looks as though it's bad, but it's not. It shows a lot of competitiveness within the group, I feel. And they'll fancy the chances. You just look at Man City and the amount of energy, mental and physical, that they expended against Real Madrid. Coming back and getting it to penalties and getting beaten penalties. You don't know the toll that'll take. Chelsea will be fresh. They'll fancy their chances, of course. And why not? And on the other one, I mean, on paper, it should be absolutely Manchester United, shouldn't it? But, we know with the manager, Mark Robins, ex-Manchester United, Coventry City doing okay in the Championship. So, yeah, again, it's all up in. If you'd asked me last week, Man City definitely, and Man United. But a week in football is like an eternity, isn't it? And things change and things happen, and it's a bit of a topsy-turvy world in football right now.
It definitely is. I'm not taking a win against Coventry for granted for Manchester United. The performance last week, and that's really disappointing. And as a United fan, not confident at all there. I think Chelsea are happy, like you said, just fresh. Manchester City is struggling, playing extra, mentally, physically exhausted coming into this match Saturday, which we'll be covering as well. So Chelsea possibly right now is the strong. And on the weekend, we already spoke about Arsenal playing Wolves. There's Aston Villa who's playing Bournemouth. Bournemouth are a good team. They get Emery are just fantastic right now. Liverpool are playing full Liverpool as well. So we'll talk about Aston Villa, Mark, because Nune continues to have a great season with Aston Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the fourth in the league, which is amazing for Aston Villa. Although it's a big club, it's a huge club in England. But I mean, when he took over from Steven Gerrard, didn't he? And he's turned it round to the fact that they're going to cement the place in the fourth position, I think, anyway, this season. And also they got through in the Euro Conference as well. So it could be a good week for them. It's been a very good week. It could be a brilliant week for them if they get a result at home against Bournemouth. So yeah, all things are rosy at Villa Park. He's doing a great job. They're playing really good football, and they're scoring lots of goals. They've got good players. Ollie Watkins is in there, so yeah, he's banging his goals in. So yeah, they're a team to be reckoned with.
They definitely are. And we'll after what has happened midweek and last week with Liverpool, how do you think they go into how do Fulham go into this match?
Oh, Fulham will be rubbing their hands, won't they? They'll be delighted. I think they had a good result at the weekend as well. So why not? I mean, Liverpool seem to be in disarray. They look tired. Some players look disinterested. Klopp looks haunted. So, I mean, how many games they got left? Is it 6 games they have left? You know, I just look at Liverpool, especially against Atalanta in the first leg. And I know Klopp rested a couple of players and whatnot, but the second leg performance wasn't great. And, you know, it's hard playing in Europe in midweek, and especially, you know, on a Thursday. There's not much rest for you, and especially when you're being beaten, you've just gone out of the cup. They didn't get beat; they won the game, but they're out of the cup, and now they've got to play Fulham, and you know it's a huge game. And I don't think Liverpool have had that much joy in London with Fulham over the years. So this is a game which will define Liverpool's Premier League. If they don't get a result here, then they're out the picture. And you could see them actually getting caught by Aston Villa, you know, because I think the wheels will come off Liverpool. And do you know what, Arpit? It's a hard one because we've looked at Xabi Alonso, who said he's going to leave with 10 games to go, and they haven't gotten beat. But at Liverpool, it seems to have gone the other way. I mean, initially it was okay, but it seems to have gone the other way now. And it looks like some players have down tools as well. So, yeah, it's a big game for Liverpool at the weekend, and I don't think they have it in them to get the result that they want.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't think Aston Villa are catching up with Liverpool. There are 6 games to go for Liverpool. Like you said, Aston Villa have played 1 extra, so 5 for them, and they're 8 points behind, and it'll be some sort of collapse from Liverpool if Aston Villa actually do catch up with them. Tottenham, with 6 games left, are 11 behind. But yeah, I think Liverpool, however bad they get, can still do it. I mean, even against Atlanta, Mohamed Salah had a great chance to make it 2-0. He's not going in for some reason. I've said it's probably some black magic because with the number of chances that Liverpool have created, they should be scoring more goals, or at least in the last 4-5 matches that I've seen. Cool, Mark. We've blazed through some stuff. I know the internet has given us a few issues listening. I mean, I apologize to anyone listening to words. I know Mark and I struggled a couple of, but that's what Bombay Goa does. Mark, we'll have to sit down together and do a podcast in Bombay sometime, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But it's going to be another amazing weekend of football, isn't it? You know, we've now got the FA Cup. It goes from the Champions League to the Europa League, now to the FA Cup, and then back to the domestic. You know, the challenges in that. So yeah, I mean, you got to feel for these footballers playing 3 times a week, but hey ho, they're getting paid for it, aren't they?
Yeah, and they love doing what they do as well. They are getting paid, but it's one of the best jobs. We are talking football, which is also something that we love to do. Glad talking to you again, Mark. A good recap of what you've seen in the week, and let's do it on Monday or Tuesday.
Absolutely, pal. Everybody have a good weekend. Go watch the football, guys.
All right. That was episode 7 of On the Mark with It. See you next time.